Malcolm X's Islamic journey. Malcolm X was an African-American Muslim figure. His character can be compared to Dr. Martin Luther King, who fought to eliminate all kinds of discrimination, especially that which befell African Americans. I know that society often kills people who try to change them for the better. If I die bringing the light of the real truth to them, it will destroy the cancer of racism that is eating away at the body of the United States, U.S. All of that is up to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Meanwhile, the mistakes or errors in my efforts are solely my own. That was his final message in the book Malcolm X, an autobiography written by Alex Harley. Malcolm X was born on May 19, 1925 in Omaha, Nebraska, USA, with the real name Malcolm Little. His mother was Louise Little, and his father, Earl Little, was a Baptist minister and a member of the UNIA, Universal Negro Improvement Association, an organization pioneered by Marcos Aurelius Garvey to accommodate improvements in life for African Americans. As a child, Malcolm and his family were often the target of shootings, burning houses, harassment, and threats because his father was a militant member of the UNIA. The violence experienced by Malcolm's family reached its peak when his father was killed by a white racist group when Malcolm was 6 years old. Losing a father who was a protector, guardian, and teacher had turned Malcolm's life into a wild child. His schooling dropped out when he was around 15 years old. He often lived on the streets. Street life and his passion for the black world had led him to fall into various gangs, drugs, alcohol, gambling, and prostitution. He lived this life until his family moved to Harlem, a famous area for Black Americans, in New York. At the age of 20, Malcolm was brought to trial for theft and was detained until he was 27 years old. Like a prisoner, he caused a lot of trouble while in prison. He had to go in and out of prison repeatedly because of the actions he had done. However, from behind the prison walls, he actually found what is called self-enlightenment, starting from reading and writing in the Charlestown State Prison. Then there was contact with his brother, Filbert, through correspondence. He also often discussed with his biological sister, Hilda, who often visited him while in prison. The discussions were related to the teachings of Islam in the place where his two brothers were involved, namely the Nation of Islam, NOI. Choosing Islam. It was from here that Malcolm got to know NOI. Then, he decided to convert to Islam and changed his name to Malcolm X. The initial X shows that he was a former smoker, former drunkard, former Christian, and former slave. While in prison, Malcolm made contact through correspondence with Elijah Muhammad, the leader and figure for NOI followers. Thanks to Elijah, Malcolm also understood the meaning of oppression and injustice that befell the black race throughout history. Since then, Malcolm X became a bookworm prisoner, starting from studying literature, religion, language, and philosophy. On the day of his release in 1952, Malcolm immediately went to Chicago to join NOI activities. Malcolm studied Islam and NOI teachings directly from the founder. A year later, Malcolm returned to Boston to organize the establishment of a mosque. Due to his success, he was appointed as the Imam of the 7 mosques, Temple 7, in Harlem. With Malcolm's joining, NOI developed into a national-scale organization. Malcolm himself became a world-famous figure, starting from interviews on television, magazines, and speaking at various leading universities and other forums. His popularity arose from his firm and critical words regarding the difficulties experienced by black people, namely about discrimination and the violent attitudes shown by white people towards their people, black people. Unfortunately, NOI also provided racist views, so he refused any help from white people who truly supported the anti-discrimination struggle. In fact, for 12 years, Malcolm preached that white people were devils, and Elijah Muhammad was the honorable and messenger of God. This view certainly contradicts the teachings of Islam itself, which does not distinguish between honor and humiliation of a person based on race, and there is no prophet after Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The racist views of NOI made Malcolm realize that this was a teaching that was not Rahmatan lil Alamin. Because of that, he decided to leave NOI. In fact, Malcolm said, he often received reprimands that the accusations thrown at white people had no basis in an Islamic perspective. Among them, those who gave reprimands were actually from Middle Eastern Muslims or North African Muslims. However, they considered Malcolm to have truly embraced Islam and said that if he had the opportunity to know true Islam, he would definitely understand its teachings and hold fast to its teachings. Returning to the pure teachings of Islam. In 1964, after performing the Hajj, Malcolm X got a different picture of his previous views. Moreover, after meeting Muslims from all over the world, from various races, nations, and skin colors, who all praised the one God and did not differentiate between each other, Malcolm said, "The experience of the Hajj that I experienced and saw myself really forced me to change many of my previous mindsets and throw away some of my thoughts. It was not difficult for me." These words are proof that he changed his outlook on life, from fighting for the civil rights of black people to the idea of internationalism and Islamic humanism. Malcolm X also began to leave his black separatist ideology and turn to the true teachings of Islam. He also changed his name to El-Hajj Malik El-Shabazz. Despite the name change, Malcolm X was much more popular than his new name. Malcolm emphasized that black Muslims came from the same Muslim ancestors. The Hajj journey, he said, had opened his horizons of thinking by granting him a new perspective during his 2 weeks in the Holy Land. The truth of Islam has shown him that blind hatred of all white people is a wrong attitude, just as if the same attitude was done by white people towards black people. On his second trip to the Middle East in 1964, Malcolm X took the time to visit Africa, the land of his ancestors. For 8 weeks, he had audiences with Egyptian President Gamal Abdel Nasser, Nigerian President Nmoy Azikiwe, Tanzanian President Julius Nyerere, Guinean President Sekou Toure, Kenyan President Jomo Kenyatta, and Ugandan Prime Minister Milton Obote. He also met with religious leaders of African, Arab, and Asian nationalities, both Muslim and non-Muslim. I saw something I had never seen in 39 years of living in the United States. I saw all races and colors as brothers and sisters and worshiping one God without associating partners with him. It is true that in the past, I had hated all white people. However, I do not feel guilty about that attitude anymore, because now I know that there are white people who are sincere and want to be brothers with black people, he said. Malcolm X finally founded the Organization of Afro-American Unity on June 28, 1964 in New York. Through this organization, he published Muhammad Speaks, which has now been changed to Bilalian News of the Bilali Black Muslims. However, he did not have long to enjoy his efforts in fighting for a better Islam. On February 21, 1965, while he was about to give a lecture at a hotel in New York, Malcolm X was shot dead by 3 African Americans, a group that he fought for about the values and rights of black citizens. No one knew what was the motive behind the shooting. Nevertheless, Malcolm X's dream of spreading an anti-racist vision and humanist Islamic values touched African Americans and the world. Many sympathized with him. In fact, thanks to his struggle, many people converted to Islam. One of them was Cassius Clay Jr., a heavyweight boxer who eventually changed his name to Muhammad Ali. Malcolm X, America needs to understand Islam. Malcolm X was a prominent human rights activist who rose to prominence as the Nation of Islam's chief spokesman. He is known for laying the foundation for the Black Power movement in the United States and for being an advocate for their rights. Malcolm X had interesting views on Islam, capitalism, mass media, and education. In his 1991 book, Martin and Malcolm in America, A Dream or a Nightmare, Malcolm X also explained why he converted to Islam. "I'm a Muslim because it's a religion that teaches an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. It teaches you to respect everybody and treat everybody right. But it also teaches you when someone steps on your toe, cut off their toe. And I always carry the axe of my religion, Malcolm said. In his autobiography, Malcolm said, "America needs to understand Islam because it is the only religion that has removed the problem of race from its society. Throughout my travels in the Muslim world, I have met, talked to, and even eaten with people who in America would be considered white, but whose whiteness was removed from their minds by the religion of Islam," he said. In addition, in Alex Haley's Roots biography, published after his death in 1965, Malcolm X gave his view of the mass media. He said that if you are not careful, the newspapers will make you hate the oppressed and love the oppressors. According to Malcolm, the media is the most powerful entity in the world. They have the power to make the innocent guilty and make the guilty innocent, and that is power, because they control the minds of the masses. Regarding education, in his speech at the founding rally of the Organization of Afro-American Unity on June 28, 1964, Malcolm said that education is an essential element in the struggle for human rights. It is a means to help children and people rediscover their identity and thereby increase their self-esteem. Education is the passport to the future because tomorrow belongs only to those who prepare for it today, he said. Regarding capitalism, Malcolm made his views known in one of his last speeches at the Audubon Ballroom in New York. "You show me a capitalist and I'll show you a bloodsucker," Malcolm said. In his 1965 autobiography, he said he had no mercy for a society that would crush people and then punish them for not being able to stand up under the burden. "I believe in recognizing every human being as a human being, not white, black, brown, or red. When you are dealing with humanity as a family, there is no question of integration or intermarriage," Malcolm X is quoted as saying in his autobiography, because to him it was just one human being marrying another human being, or one human being living in the neighborhood. Malcolm also learned early that crying is a protest that can get things done. "When my older brothers and sisters started school, sometimes they would come and ask for a butter biscuit or something, and my mother would get impatient and she would tell them no," Malcolm said. However, Malcolm would cry and make a fuss until he got what he wanted. He also remembers his mother asking him why he couldn't be a good boy like Wilfred. "But I would think to myself that Wilfred, being so nice and quiet, was often hungry. I learned early in life that if you want something, you better make a fuss," Malcolm X said in his autobiography.